makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. Today's conversation will be with Pelot, founder and CEO of Perspectives, a leadership consultant firm. Karen is an experienced leader with a diverse background in executive coaching, strategic planning, and workplace conflict resolution. Good morning, Karen. I am thrilled to have you with me today. Thank you for joining me. And also, I'm looking forward to learning more about your company and how you are helping other companies. Also, I know that a small business usually we need a lot of help when it comes to leadership and different type of coaching that can actually, or even consultant that can actually help us grow bigger than where we are right now. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey to become the founder and CEO of Perspectives?
Yeah, sure. So first, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you today. And yeah, I would love to tell you a little bit about my journey. So I, like all good college graduates, I started out to, go out and conquer the corporate ladder and started with a very, very large corporation, climbed the corporate ladder, got recruited to 2 more companies that were in the Fortune 100 group, for the next bigger job. Landed in a national position with a very large company. About 3 months into that role, I realized this is not going to work for me. It's just not. This is not it for me long term. And I started doing some soul searching and kind of investigating what are possibilities. And I came up with, in my soul searching, so where in the last 15 years have I been the most personally fulfilled and satisfied and felt the most successful? And where did I feel the most engaged, and what was really the most interesting for me? And so I came up with a few different things. I came up with my top 3, which encouraged me to keep moving. And that was, I knew I had a need to feel autonomous. Like when I felt like I could be the decision maker and really lead my group in the way that I felt was the right way, that felt great to me. And then I also, some of my best times, my best memories were always being fully engaged with my team and working with the leaders that I had hand chosen for their unique skills and really problem solving with them and working on how do we get to the next level. Awesome. Always felt like that was fantastic. And then kind of the third thing, I had the fortune of being in a position where I some people would say misfortune, probably when I think about it, but I was able to sit in as the corporate representative for a period of time in litigation against the company. And so I was sitting in mediations and really helping through a mediator to resolve some very potentially expensive, damaging litigation in some situations, both to protect the company and protect our clients sometimes. And I really love that. So I love the autonomy. I love totally being engaged with my leaders and problem solving. And then I loved the kind of putting the puzzle together of trying to take 2 completely adverse parties and figuring out how to resolve this issue in a way that we could, walk away satisfied. So those are my 3 top elements there that caused me to actually 7 months into that last position, jump and start. I started the first rendition of Perspectives. It was called Karen Pelot Mediations. And I started off as a solopreneur mediator. And eventually through, organic requests and client requests, grew into not only a conflict resolution firm, but also the leadership support firm that we really are today. So we went through a couple of renditions and landed as perspectives. So
I love it. But it seems like you listen to your clients to actually, for the company to be what it is today.
yes, I actually did. And it surprised me a little bit because I loved every day as a mediator and a solopreneur. And then one day a client said, "Hey, this worked out so well." And it was a non-litigated issue, internal leaders within a division of the US Navy, actually. And both were very important. But if they couldn't figure out how to get along, one or both was going to have to go. So through that process, we resolved it. Things worked out pretty well. And last I heard, many years later, they're still working together successfully. Knock on wood there. But I left and I got this call that I think we could use your help on a wider scale. Could you do a workshop on conflict resolution? And I was like, sure, I can do a workshop, and hung up the phone and went, can I do a workshop? I don't know. So I put together a workshop. So things just kind of grew. And then, a year or two later, a client that, now I'm doing workshops and conflict resolution. And a client said, I really think our senior leaders could really benefit for some coaching. Do you do that? And I said,
okay.
Of course I do. Yes, of course I do. And I jumped into coaching, like not really being a coach, intuitively, I knew how to develop leaders because I'd done it for many years, et cetera. But I did actually go back to school and get an executive master's certification in coaching to, make sure, am I doing this right? But yeah, just sort of organically, it went from straight mediation, litigated, to non-litigated within the workplace. Let's save these relationships for a better organization, to workshops, to coaching. And now it's sort of all put together with my team. And I get to do all my favorite things. I have the autonomy because I get to make my own decisions, right, for the company. Although I do prefer to do it collaboratively. And so we're doing the strategic planning and coaching, and still doing some conflict resolution that comes hand in hand with expanding and growing and getting the best out of ourselves.
I know from the beginning you said that when you a 6 month in, you felt like this is not for me. So what was that moment that made you felt that way? Like, hey, this is not for me at all. I don't want to be here.
Oh gosh. Well, I loved my corporate positions, my big, huge, giant corporation positions, and could not do what I do today had I not done that and gone through everything that I did in corporate America, and learned everything I did from some really genius leaders as well. But it just started becoming more and more apparent. And I think the last company that I was with, 3 months in, I realized this is not going to work. And 7 months later, I was starting my own company. But it was just, when you're part of a big machine like that, sometimes you have to roll things out, and you have to, obviously you support whatever the executive decisions are. We support them, we roll them out. And I found myself more and more often feeling like, number one, this is going to fail. This thing that I'm now jamming kind of down the pike to my leaders to roll out to their teams, I really don't believe in it, but I'm doing my best to believe in it. And I just reached a point where I just couldn't keep bleeding the corporate colors. It felt very inauthentic to me. And I knew I wouldn't continue to progress to that senior executive level if I was fighting the senior executives along the way. So it just became very apparent that I needed to jump. I needed to just figure out, how do I get in the role where I can do the things that I truly believe in that are the most interesting, exciting for me personally, and feel the most rewarding, and don't feel like this inner struggle all the time to, wear the happy face, be the motivating leader that of course I needed to be. And I was until the day I left. But it just felt more and more inauthentic.
I think that the moment you start, you're not believing in what you are doing anymore. I don't think it wasn't matter, because for me, this is the same way. If I'm doing something, I believe on it, I give it all. I can't even sleep. I'm too excited. I can't wait to wake up in the morning to start doing this again. But the moment I don't believe on it anymore, it's like, do I need to get out of the bed? Can I just stay there? So you kind of get your body itself kind of gave up by itself. So
it is. It eats at you. It used to make me I traveled all the time. My, home office I'm in Orlando, Florida. It was in Hartford, Connecticut. And so I traveled all the time, and it just got harder and harder, more and more tired. And that inner struggle of being the leader I knew the company needed me to be if they were going to be successful with these things that they want, we're rolling out. And what I really believed, it was just it was a harder and harder sell for myself. And that made it really hard to be convincing for my team as well, to try to get them on board. And because they were just as confused as I felt about why would this be the right direction, So, but I'm right there with you. It literally physically eats at you when you're trying to swim upstream,
So you left after 7 months. All right. You went on your own. Things are moving along. You're following your client's advice. Hey, can you do coaching? Hell yes. I've been working with leaders for years. Sure, call me anytime. Let me go figure it out after we're done with the conversation. But I'm in. But now, 2023.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you made the right decision? How's that journey been?
Oh my gosh, 100%. So I've never, ever wished I could be back in the corporate position. Even through the struggles and highs and lows and ups and downs. And there's a lot when, as a solopreneur, and then starting to build and formulate a team and bring in people, that I trust, that are like-minded enough, but different enough too, to keep me in check and balance and moving forward. I have always been grateful that I was able to go to start my own thing. And it's been a heck of a fun journey to see, how sometimes in the moment you don't get, you're like, why this, why is this happening right now? But then if you fast forward a little bit and you look at it in the rearview mirror, you can go, oh, of course. This had to happen for me to do that, for me to do that, for us to do this. And it's delightful to look back on all of the stepping stones, to see the journey from that day I got on the plane and left Connecticut in a horrible snowstorm. What have I done? Is it going to be okay? To, today where, we're thriving, and it's just like every puzzle we get to help resolve with the clients. It's just fun. It's fun. Yeah.
It seems like you enjoy what you do. That's all I can say.
Yes. I'm very fortunate. I love what I do. Now, there are things about running your own company, especially when you start out and you're used to having a team of people around you, and that, they're super hard. And there are things that I have had to do and did for years that are way outside my expertise. It's like the things that I can do it, but it's going to take me 5 times longer than somebody who actually does do it, Mm-hmm. There are things that still, when I get into the meetings and have to start talking about some of these things, it just shuts me down. It just makes me want to, go hide in the closet or something, because it's just not what I do, right? What I do is what I do with the clients. But what I don't do is figure out marketing and social media and keeping my finances. These are not my wheelhouse. I'm a people person,
not a number person.
I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a marketing genius, but yeah, I'm so fortunate. I love what I do. The people I get to work with love what they do too. And so it's a good gig.
Would you say that not knowing about marketing, social media, or the finance, would you say that's your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I mean, as we sit here today, it's not as big of a challenge because I have people that are awesome at it that handle it for me. But I'd say starting out, in those first few years, especially, I think my two biggest challenges, probably in the first 5 years, were I got lonely pretty fast, right? Like it felt awesome for the first several months to just, it's my thing. I get to make all the decisions. I'm building this from the ground up. But then it didn't take too long to really start feeling lonely because, the magic for me happens when I've got these collaborative minds and these people that are bringing different strengths to the table, and we're doing it together and we're getting it done. And that was just me. So it got super, super lonely. That was hard. And then the other challenge were these things, these elements that you have to do when you're starting a business and you're running a business that are not what I do, but you have to do them. And that was super challenging. It took me a lot longer. And I think that's probably a very common thing for us solopreneurs who start off, just us, that because we are, not only are we the CEO and the lead practitioner, but we are the marketing person and the accountant and making all the decisions without that benefit of being able to collaborate with people who are actually experts in that area. So those are my two biggest challenges.
So now the loneliness is no longer there. So that's gone. How did you overcome that?
Well, at first I couldn't afford to have a team, and I wasn't big enough to need a team, really. So at first I just started, I started getting to know other solopreneurs that were in my field. And those sort of became my posse and kind of my little mini mastermind group. There were three of them all together. And one was about 5 years ahead of me. One was 20 years ahead of me. So they were down the road. So they were very good resources, but also fun. We could, meet for an early dinner and glass of wine and talk about, what was happening. So that was how I did it at first. Then probably by about the 5th year, I started having enough work, and we started diversifying with the workshops and things that we've already talked about. And I just, when you build it, they will come. I started meeting the exact right people that could come in as contract workers. So whenever we had a new client, whenever we had a new project to create, maybe a new workshop to create, I had these amazing, talented people that became the team instantaneously. And now fast forward even more than that, I've got my regular team. I've got 3 people, this is my core team. And I still have several contract workers that come in as needed to fill gaps for us. And when projects are too big, 2 or 3 of us work them together. So.
Wow, it's been a long journey. So I know that it's over 5 years. So how long you been in business for now?
Oh yeah. So we're talking 2007. I started Karen Pelot Mediations in 2007. So I've been an entrepreneur now longer than I was a corporate entity.
Yes.
So
Well, all
Mhm.
I can say is congratulations, you did it.
Thank
You're still
you.
standing. And then the
Yeah.
great thing about it, COVID didn't hit you. Well, I'm not saying it didn't hit you, but it didn't
Ooh.
drag you down, you know? You're still standing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was super scary, like for the rest of the world, just like everybody else.
Yes.
I went from having a calendar full to from Friday to Monday, everything canceled because everything was in person. All of
Yep.
the client work was in person back then, and now I love it. So we had a couple months where it was like, what does this mean? And while clients figured out, can we carry on? They all had to figure it out too. And so we sort of paused while they figured it out. And then probably 60 days or so in, we discovered
Back in
Zoom and
business.
started getting really, yeah. Yeah. And now loving the hybrid world, loving doing, it's probably 60% still now virtual and 40% back to in person.
Are you going to go back to in-person at least by 90%, do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't think my client base will either, because there's so many advantages. There's so much we can do and we can still build effective relationships. I don't think any client engagements, because a lot of my engagements are long, several months together now. And there's so much we can do virtually. But at some point, we always build in that in-person time, the most critical elements, I'll fly in, but they don't need to have the expense of bringing me in person all the time anymore either. So it just really, to me, it makes very good business sense to continue with the hybrid model.
Hey,
Plus, we
save
save a
money.
whole lot of time.
A lot of money.
So much time and money is saved, so.
So is your client just in one state, or do you have them all over United States or outside of the country as well?
Yeah, so my clients are primarily US based. And most of them are outside of the state of Florida. Ironically, they kind of always have been. I have when I was doing straight mediation, that's not true. When I was doing straight mediation, a lot of them were local to the greater, I don't know how familiar you are with our geography, but greater Central Florida area. And then that quickly expanded. But so a lot of my clients are government entities, part of the Department of Interior or the Department of Defense. And they're all over the place. So, yeah, I would say at least 80% of my clients are outside the state of Florida. Yeah. And about 20% are closer to home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who would think? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, can you give us like an overview of the services that the company offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I mentioned that we've ultimately, transitioned from conflict resolution to a more comprehensive leadership support firm. And we do that through executive coaching programs, strategic planning, facilitation, and assistance with implementation. And then we still have that core element of workplace conflict resolution as well. So those are my primary services. They're rarely one-on-one. They usually, projects usually kind of encompass a little bit of each. Our programs, start off with objectively identifying what the gaps are for the clients for whatever their goals are for engaging us. And then we make real good tactical, strategic, long-term and very tactical, tangible plans to move forward with to help them actually achieve their goals. And then we coach to help support throughout. So
it's kind of like a little bit of each what you are doing combined to one.
It is more often that it's very rare that we do just a one-off anymore. I speak as well. So I will come in and just speak, and that's a one-off. I just show up and speak. And occasionally we do just a workshop somewhere. But most of the time, if there's a workshop, a shared learning experience, it's part of the coaching program, and it's a shared experience for the whole leadership team.
So pretty much you do one-on-one with just for example, the leader of the team, you do one-on-one, and the rest of them is just a group workshops or something like that?
Yeah. So from a coaching standpoint, I only work with like upper, mid, and senior level executives.
Okay.
However, when we're working with them and we're bridging those gaps, and often they're communication oriented and learning to understand themselves and learning their people more effectively. Sometimes it's really effective to train the whole leadership staff, but then also bring their staffs in and get exposed to the very same thing that their leaders are learning as well. So any kind of one-on-one or coaching is done only with the leaders, because what I learned early on was if I'm engaging directly with the staff, it gets confusing about who's leading.
Who's leading?
And both the leaders and the staff it's an interesting human dynamic that they'll almost start to punt to me, and accountability starts to come to the coach instead of residing solely with the leader, which is of course where it needs to be. You know, the coach is the support team.
Yes.
The leadership needs to lead. So
do you find them come to you for help as well if you handle it, like if you end up in the middle of the two, like the leader and then this? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's happened, is that the staff will start coming to me trying to end run their leader. You know, they think I have more authority within the company to make decisions than an outside consultant in my role really has, because all the decision making stays with the leadership. It never transitions to me. I help them make the great decisions and implement the great decisions, but the decisions are theirs to make. And so the staff absolutely will start like sending me emails, trying to have a phone call with me, trying to like do an in run. Think if they lobby to me, if they can get my ear, then they get what they want. And so it took me probably about 18 months into my first group leadership coaching program to realize, okay, I've got to have a clear delineation here, because it's not doing my leaders that I'm coaching any good to have their people have the impression that, number one, I have authority, and number two, that I'm driving the bus, because I'm not.
You're not.
And the last thing I'll say about that is the leaders need to squarely understand that these are their decisions. They can't eventually, if something goes sideways, point back at perspectives and say, well, this is what they told us to do. Duh. Because it's never what we told you to do. It's always what we helped you develop on your own. Yeah.
But in reality, really, you don't tell them what to do. You just guide them.
This is exactly true.
And I think a lot of people understand what coaching is. Coaching is the person not going to come tell you go do ABC. A lot of time I felt like it's more like asking the proper questions to make sure you come up with your own solution on your own. It's not even the person that gave it to you. It's your solution that was already there. You just didn't realize it.
That is exactly right. The client is always and will always be the expert in their field. You know, I work with scientists, engineers, accountants, architects, manufacturing plants. You know, I'm not an expert in any of those fields. They are. And so it's very important that they always know and feel confident in that we are the experts. I'm just your guide to help shepherd you to where you want to get by really asking the right questions and pushing pause and causing you to take a step back and ask the right questions. Now, I'll hold the mirror up and give you very objective information about what I am observing and about what data has told us about your organization, right? These are like the facts. This is what the data says. And I won't let them get away with trying to skirt, accountability, because it's a big part of being a great leader is being very self-aware, and really knowing when is my behavior modeling what I want from the rest of my team? And how is my behavior positively or negatively impacting the team? But ultimately, the decisions are yours. Absolutely.
So now, as a leader and coach, what qualities do you believe are very important for a success business?
For me, as in my business or for the leaders that I work with?
For the leaders that you work with.
I love that question. So I would say that there are a few important things, and I've alluded to, I think, a couple of them already. But I would say, number one, the great leader has got to be an outstanding communicator. And they've got to understand that communication is a two-way street. It means being inclusive. It means being collaborative. It means listening probably more than you talk. And it means actually digesting and taking into account things that you're hearing. So I'd say be a great communicator. And I mentioned before, you've got to model. Even when you think people aren't watching, you have to model the behaviors that you want from the rest of your organization, because people always know. You think you've got this one trusted person, and I'm sure they're very trustworthy, but guess what? They've got a trustworthy person too, and it's not you. So people always find out. Be authentic, be a great communicator, be the role model of the behavior. I would say build an org chart that meets the needs of the organization, that is not built around personalities or longevity. You've got to create roles and expectations that will support your company, not an individual. Be smart enough to put the right people in the right place, and then give them credit for the outstanding work they do. Too many leaders, especially younger leaders up and coming, have that pressure. They were great individual contributors, top of their field, but now they're the leader and they're expected to get things done through other people, not do it themselves. They've got to let go of that need to get the credit and be the one that has all the answers, and be the one that gets all the credit, and give the credit to the people that are the experts, that are doing it, that are getting it done. You know, they just have to be smart enough now in their leadership role to put the right people in the right seats and hold them accountable.
So pretty much give credit to your team.
100%. 100%. They're the ones getting it done. Revel in the glory that you were smart enough to put the right people in the right positions, and they're doing a great job.
I agree with you on that. So now you have your company received many awards for its work in leadership coaching and development. What does this recognition mean to you, and how does it motivate you to continue growing and expanding the company?
Oh, well, it's fun. Obviously, it's, it's always thrilling. I think, one of the things that I've come to know to be true is, as humans, we all want to feel valued and trusted and respected in our field. And when we get recognition, that sort of encompasses all of those things, and it feels great. So it is motivating in a way, but, they've all come as surprises, kind of didn't know it was coming. So that's really fun. It's a fun surprise. But at the end of the day, and I think I can speak for my whole team, and I know I can, is at the end of the day, it's seeing our clients feel super motivated and feel super successful because of the time they've spent with us. That is the biggest motivator. Getting the awards is fun, and I'd love to get more. Don't get me wrong. I would love to get more. So don't take me off the list if anybody's considering it. But at the end of the day, and it sounds super hokey, I know, and very corny, but it is just the truth. It is so much fun, and it is so rewarding when at the end of the day, as we're moving through the engagement, 6 months or a year, when after the engagement is over, when we hear back about the successes, and I just heard one this morning that is just so awesome to hear that we had a part because of our partnership in that client's, ongoing motivation and success.
I think that's, I'm not saying the award is not great, but I felt like this type of emails, this type of phone calls, they like, well, I'm making a difference in this world. It's just bright everything. It's just change everything else. Just change your day. And I know what that feels, because I feel that way when someone say, hey, thank you for helping me. I appreciate it. This changed a lot of things for my company. So it's great to hear them. It's make you feel you want to keep on going.
Valued. Yeah. Valued and trusted and respected. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It literally is why perspectives exist. So
yes, it is. But the award's still great though. Don't take her off the list. Don't take her. So now, how do you incorporate DEI into your work with clients, and what advice would you give to the companies looking to improve their EI efforts?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned a lot of my work over the last 10 years has been with government agencies and bureaus, and I think it's true in your country too. You know, if you look at the org charts, historically they are predominantly white male, the people that hold these positions.
Yes.
And the truth for me that I have to keep reminding myself is even the greatest change is very difficult, right? Change, even when you know it is going to give you the best possible outcome, it's still not easy. It's uncomfortable. And what I can say is that DEI, maybe let me back that up just a second. My clients often are completely ignorant. And I don't mean that in a mean or disrespectful way. I mean it because it's something they've never experienced, yes. Right? They've worked in places that have legacies of hiring people that look and think just like them, you know? So this whole diversity of thought, diversity of race, culture, background, experiences is comparatively new, and they struggle hard with it. And when that uncomfortable conversation, and we have to start making plans now, we're going to start making plans on what this looks like, what the face of this organization looks like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and how to get there. Because, it doesn't happen just because we say, we're going to be diverse and inclusive and equitable now. There's a boatload of stuff that has to happen, both procedurally as well as, literally finding your candidates, bringing them in. Shifting a culture takes time. But what I can say is I am somewhat relentless. I have experience, and I know that when we bring that diversity to the table and we truly are inclusive and equitable in our approach to things, we experience success and ingenuity and creativity and warp speed like we couldn't imagine we could do once we're there.
Yes.
But getting that, we won't call it the Titanic. What's a better word? The Queen Mary, like a giant ship, to change course and turn around. It's painful for them. So I have to keep that in mind and be somewhat compassionate might be too strong of a word, but at least understand that their struggle is real, but worth it. So my job is to help them stay the course, keep showing them all the reasons why and all the carrots why. In the long run, in the short and long run, you're going to look back and go, what took us so long? What took us so long to open our eyes to the value of diversity and inclusion and equity in the workplace? So I haven't completely righted the course in some of my government agencies, but I can say some are having the tough dialogues, and they're getting more comfortable with the conversations and have put real plans in place and are beginning to actually carrying them out. Some are further down the road, and their org chart today looks completely different than it did 5 years ago. And that's a beautiful thing. So I'm relentless. Some fights are worth fighting the fight for. I keep it in front of them, and I help them normalize their struggle and their discomfort so that eventually it just becomes a way of thinking for them. So lofty goals here for the US government for me. But I'm going to take them one bureau at a time. So, yeah.
One step at a time. You don't want them to run away from you.
Exactly. And I would never actually fight with them. Our partnership is important, but this is too serious. And, it's an evolution that's past time,
It is, but also it's I think that as I'm speaking as a Black woman here, it's also a tough things to change people's point of view, the way they see things, because the world has been like that for centuries. And now just you wake up today, you tell them, hey, yeah, you got to do this and that and then change this and that. I think for me, as in the world, as people in the world, we have to also look at it that we need to give them time to understand what they are changing, to understand why this is so valuable. It's just like a kid. When you give birth to a baby, compared to animals, some of them stand up on their 2 feet, 4 feet, start walking right away. But when you give birth to a child, it's not like that for humans. We don't stand and start walking. We don't even start talking. All we know to communicate is cry, smile. That's all we do. That's our communication way. We're not feeling well. We cry because we did, okay, mommy gonna understand me. I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna try. So it's the same way as even when we get older, is it as a company, as humans, we incorporate everything the same way. So when you tell a company, you gotta change, you gotta do it today, there's humans behind that company and the mindset, it's not there yet. So it will take time to make that change. So it's the same way I looked at it, even as being a Black woman. When I was in corporate, I don't look at them. They need to make the change just because I'm here. They have to make it right now. I always make it that I have to understand where they come from and try to make them understand why this is also important and give them time to process it and for them to see it. And it might not happen today. It might not happen to me, but at least it will happen for my children. For the rest of the children in the world, they don't have to face it the way I did. So that's how I see it. I don't really look at it any other way. I felt like Black, white, yellow, pink, each one of us need to understand one another. It's like even when I met other people, they said, well, white people don't have any issues. I'm looking at you like, are you sure about that? They have a different problem than you do, but they have a lot of it. So
it may not be exactly the same, but we all are people, right? We all are people. And I love that. And I'm right there with you. That whole ability to meet them where they are, even when it's frustrating. And, it's frustrating on both all sides of the table as they figure out how to really see things through a different lens and understand and come to the table in a different way and recruit in new pools and revamp how they do their training and succession planning and how they find the next generations of leaders, and
it takes time.
Things. It's a lot. And they got to start from where they are, wherever that is, and then hopefully make strides. And I hope that you, young, beautiful Black woman that you are, experience more inclusion and that feeling of equity and that a normalcy, and that it doesn't have to wait till the next generation. Although I do know it's not going to, there's no switch we get to flip. And it's nothing's going to 100% change, but I hope you get to see more and more glimpses.
I think that I already see it. It's like for me, I'm not living it, but I see it for the future. And I think that's one of the things that's more important is the next generation of women in the workplace will be treated equally as the male partner in the workplace. They don't have to feel different. And I look at things that way. As long as us as women, we keep on fighting. And I don't know if you realize, for me, I don't fight for colors. I fight for women. That's my belief. I feel
Yeah.
like as a woman, it doesn't matter where we come from in the world, who we are, what our knowledge are, how we were treated, because we all have to stand with one another because we're all facing the same issue when it's come, the same problems we are all facing, regardless of the color or not. That's how I saw it when I was in corporate. As a woman, they look at us like, yeah, she doesn't need that.
Right.
But compared to a male, it's different. Like I will stay up late at night. I prepare this nice PowerPoint ready to present, and somebody else will present it. Why? Because I'm a woman. I didn't look at it because I'm black. I look at it because I'm a woman. Because the other woman that was different colors of me couldn't do the same thing as well. So the issue is not a color problem for me. I look at it, it's a woman. And us as women, we need to stand together regardless of where we come from and said, hey, we have a voice. We can sit in that table and give you our point of view, because when we're at home, you marry us, you come home with your problems, we help you fix it when you get home. I don't know how many of you that's married, that have husband, they come, honey, I had a very tough day at work. Speak to me. And they lay down to you and you tell them, honey, next day do ABC, and they go do ABC, they come back home and say, it works perfectly. You're welcome.
That's right. That's right. That's why women will eventually rule the world again one day, because we do it better. But sorry, men, you're great too. Sorry, men out there, but I'm with you on that. And I do think that our more senior women leaders, hopefully, because I came up earlier than you, and when I came up as a up and comer, starting to climb that ladder, and a woman, sometimes it was the women up higher than me that were the hardest to break through.
Yes. They
were not advocates of other women. And maybe at that time there were so few that they felt like they had to, protect their turf, and not bring it or something like that. But, it was often the women had to work the hardest to win over and see my value, but I think that we're starting, that's shifting now. I think that more and more senior women leaders are starting to realize that just because I had to scrap, proverbial I, to get where I am, doesn't mean she has to. She is brilliant. She is talented. And I'm not just going to be her mentor, but I'm going to be her advocate.
Exactly. And that's what we need.
Put her name out. I'm going to support why she should be the next in line, why she should get that position. I'm going to advocate for her, not just stand behind a curtain and mentor her,
That's what we need. That's exactly what we need. So now, I have one last question for you. As a female founder and CEO, what advice would you give to other women who are looking to start their own business or advance?
Yeah. So let's see. I would say for those that are looking to start their own business, do your due diligence first, right? Number one, make sure that whatever business you want to start, that there is a market for it. There's a market in your area for it. Make sure you've got a viable, idea to go out with. And then I would also say, if you're in a role right now that is supporting you, don't jump without a parachute. I did, and it worked out ultimately beautifully for me, but it didn't have to be kind of as scary as it was in those first year, 18 months, to go from really, really nice electronic funds transfer every 2 weeks and benefits and bonus, and all of that, to, if I don't work with a client this week, I don't make any money. So hang on to your day job while you get it all lined up and get it all in place. And then I would say, don't let fear stop you. Me jumping probably, if I'm honest with myself, had percolated for 10 years. Like, I can remember a conversation 10 years earlier that I think I should be doing something on my own. I just don't know exactly what it is. And, I needed that 10 years to mature and get the skills that I ultimately lean on today. And maybe you do too. as somebody that's coming out and wanting to start your own business. So let it percolate, make sure there's a market for it. But then when you feel like, okay, I've got the basic foundation in alignment, don't let fear stop you. Go for it. Do it. Just go for it. You've got everything you need inside you. There's plenty of us women coaches and mentors out here that can help cheer you on and be your advocates. But do it. Do it.
Just do it. Thank you so much, Karen.
Like you said. Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your time. I know I kept you longer than I supposed to, but this was a great conversation, the work you are doing. I love your story, the way you started.
Thank you.
You took the leap of faith, and look the way it turns out. Perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you. This was so much fun. I feel like I've been talking to an old friend. So
it was my pleasure. I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.